So now I can plant these and they will grow in 5 seconds, and after they've grown I can click to harvest and it'll show how many I've harvested down there in the label. For this tutorial you will need a player, a ground, and 3 different models of a crop. If you don't have these things, go to the first link in the description and download this project file. Now the first thing we want to do is create a new 3D scene and name it corn. Then I will change the type to a static body, and then I will add a child node which will be a collision shape. On this collision shape I will make a new capsule shape and I will rotate it -90 degrees. After this I will duplicate this twice, name the first one large, the second one medium, and the third one small. And we can also just go ahead and save this scene in our scenes folder as just corn. Now for every collision shape we've created here, we will drag in the corresponding model. So for the large, we will go with the large model. And the medium goes in the medium, and the small goes in the small. And now we're gonna have to select all of these and rotate them 90 degrees to make them upright again. Then I will go to this large collider and adjust it so it's about halfway up the big crop, and then I will drag this whole thing up until this circle reaches the midpoint right there. After that I will go into the transform of the large collider and copy this Y translation, go into the model and paste that into the Z translation with a negative sign in front of it. Then we're gonna do the same thing for the medium, so I will hide the large and click the medium collider, click the capsule up here, make unique. Then I will just adjust this until it's halfway up this crop, and then bring the collider up until this circle reaches the bottom, and then copy that transform, paste it into the model's Z transform with a negative sign in front of it. Then I hide that and I do the same thing with the small one. Make unique, adjust the transform. You know what? For this small one, we can actually just change this into a sphere shape and shrink it down to about there. So we will now press the main static mesh up here and add a script. I will call this script crop because we will be able to reuse this script, and I will create it in my scripts folder. The first thing I'll do is delete all of this. Then I need to get references to all of our models. So I type onReady var large and then $large. I can copy and paste this 2 times and just change that to medium, change that to small, change that to medium, and change that to small. Then I need a variable that I will call growth value, and I will set it to 0.0. And then I need another one which I will call growth time in seconds, which I will default at 5. Now I'd like to be able to adjust this one in the inspector, so I will type export float in front of it. And now we can adjust it right here. Then I will make another variable that will be a bool called harvestable, and it's going to be false. And up here I will add also an exported variable that will be an integer. Up here I will also add a variable called harvest amount, which will decide how many pieces of corn you get from harvesting a corn plant. And I will also make this editable in the inspector. Now the final thing I want up here before we get into the functions is something called a crop type. So later, when we have more than one crop type, we will be able to tell them apart with this. And to easily set a crop type, I want to go down here into the file system, right click, new script, and just call this crop types and create it. And then I will open up that script, delete all of this. And the first thing I'll do is I'll write class name crop types. And this will make it so that we can access this script from anywhere. And then I will create an enum called crop type and add the corn. Later on, when we have more crops, we can add them here as well, like tomato and maybe radish. But right now we only have corn, so these won't matter. But the thing that I will use this small little script for is to go back into the crop script and write right here, export crop types, crop type. And what this does is that it lets me, from the inspector, when I press the corn, it lets me go up here to the right side and switch between tomato and radish and corn. So that way, when I interact with this crop, I will be able to tell if it's corn or tomato or something else. Now let's get into the functions, and we will start with the process function. Process gets called once every frame, and every frame we want to check if the growth value is less than 1. And if the growth value is less than 1, we want to add to the growth value. So growth value plus equals delta divided by the growth time in seconds. This code will make it so that if growth time in seconds is 5, it'll take 5 seconds for growth value to reach 1. And if growth seconds is 56, it'll take 56 seconds for growth value to reach 1. After this, we want to make sure that the crop knows that it's harvestable if the growth value is more or equal to 1. And then of course we also want to change the models depending on how much it's grown. So I'll take the small model and make it visible when the growth value is less than 0.5. Then I'll do the same thing for the medium and write that the medium will be visible when the growth value is less than 1 and the growth value is more than 0.5. So in between 1 and 0.5 it'll show the medium. And then finally let's do the same thing but for the large. Growth value needs to be more or equal to 1, and then it will show the large. And that is just the visibility of it. But we also want to activate and deactivate the colliders. So I'll write small disabled, and this is referring to the collider since that's what I've referenced. The collider is disabled when the growth value is more than 0.5. So we are going to have to invert all of these. So let's do the same thing for the medium. The medium will be disabled when the growth value is more than 1.0 or when the growth value is less than 0.5. So we use and up here, but here we have to use or since it's the inverse. And then let's do the last one, which will be the large. And that will be disabled if the growth value is less than 1. Now our process function is done, and if I were to go into the world and drag the corn in here and just take a look at it, we would see that it grows in 5 seconds. Great. Now we want to be able to interact with this crop as well, so I will add another function that I will call interact. And here I will just say that if this crop is harvestable, we will queue free. And this interact function we will call to from another script. I'll show you that later. And I have 3 more functions that I want to add into this script. The first is just a simple get crop type, which will just return the crop type. The second one is a get harvest amount. And this one will just return the harvest amount. And the third one is a function that I will call update prompt text. And if this crop is harvestable, the prompt text will return click to harvest. But if it's not harvestable, it will return not ready. There we go. Now this entire script and this entire scene with the crop is completely finished, and we will not do anything else in this. We will now instead go to our scenes and open our player scene. This is how my player scene looks with the movement code in this script, and then a collision shape and a camera. Yours might look different, have more stuff in it, it does not matter. Under this camera that we use for our player, I will add a spatial node that I will call interactor. Then under the player right here, I will add another spatial node that I will call inventory. I will also move this up so it's easier to see up here. And then finally I will add another node which will be a canvas layer. And this canvas layer is what we're going to dive into next. So go to 2D, canvas layer, and add a label. Now this label I will name the corn amount label, and I will actually put it in the center bottom right here. And then I'll make sure that it's aligned to the center as well. And I'll write some test text right here, and then just align it to the center bottom again. Then I will duplicate this corn amount label and name this next label the prompt label. And with the prompt label selected, I will anchor this to the center of the screen. I will switch back from center aligned to left aligned right here, and I will pull it a little bit to the right. Then I'd also like to have a crosshair, so I will just add a color rect right there and make it smaller and anchor it to the center of the screen. Actually, I think I'm going to make it even smaller right there and then re-anchor it to the center of the screen. That will be our crosshair. Also rename this to crosshair. Now we press the canvas layer and we add a new script to it, which I will actually call UI. Create that script, and this script will be very easy. Just remove all of that, and then I want references to my two labels. So onReady var corn amount label will be the corn amount label. onReady var prompt label will be the prompt label. I then want a function named update prompt text, and that'll just take in the new text, which will be a string. And in here you just write prompt label text equals new text. And then the final function we want in this script is update crop amount. And right here I want to take in the crop type and also the new amount, which will be an integer. And in this function we will match the crop type, and if the crop type is crop types crop type corn, we will put the corn amount label text to corn and then add the new amount. And this is just for converting this new amount, which is an int, to a string, so I can write it in the text. Now our UI script is completely finished, and we will be moving on to the inventory script. So press the inventory node and add a new script called inventory. I will add it to my scripts folder right here and open. Now since we only have corn, the only thing we want here is a corn amount variable. Right now I have 0, and then I actually want a signal called inventory updated. And we will just have one single function in this script for now called add crop which will take in the crop type and the amount to add, which will be an integer. Then we will write, just like last time, match the crop type, and if the crop type is crop types crop type corn, we will add the amount to add to the corn amount, like so, and then we somehow want to send the total to the UI so it can update the crop amount label. So in this inventory, I'll actually add above this match a variable called new total, and then here I will make the new total the corn amount. And then after this match statement, I will just write emit signal, inventory updated, feed in the crop type and the new total. That is all we need to do in this inventory script. And now I will actually jump up to my player script, and you can ignore all of the other stuff right here. I will just be focusing on this area. So go into your player script, into the ready function, and we want a reference to the inventory. So get a reference to your inventory, and while we're at it, we might as well get a reference to the UI, and that is the canvas layer. And then I just want to connect right here in the ready function the inventory connect inventory updated to the UI, and this one will be connected to the update crop amount. So let's just copy that name and paste it in there. Now every time the inventory is updated, it will also update the UI. Now I press the interactor and I add a new script called interactor, and I put it in my script folder and create and delete all of this. And this interactor is sitting on the camera. So from the camera, we're gonna interact with stuff, and we're gonna do that through raycasting. So first of all, we want the distance that we should be able to raycast. I will put that at a 5 as a default, and then I will actually paste in a raycast function. So this is how you raycast in Godot. So just pause right here and copy this. I like doing raycasts like this, so I can just call a simple raycast function instead of having to write all of this out every time I want to raycast. Now let's add 2 signals to the script. The first signal is going to be called update prompt text, and the second signal will be called harvested crop. Now we want to be able to interact in some way, so we go up to the project settings into the input map and we add an interact input. Type interact and hit enter, and then type the little plus next to interact, mouse button, left button. Now I will make the process function in this script. If input is action just pressed, interact, we will interact. Now this function does not exist yet, so I'll copy this and go down here and create the interact function. And in the interact function, we are going to raycast. So I'll write var result equals raycast. And of course we need to specify a layer we want to raycast to. So let's go over to our corn again and press the static body, go to the right side right here, collision, and we want to deactivate that layer and activate the second layer. So this layer has a value of 2. That means we want to interact with the layer with the value of 2. So now we will only be able to interact with the corn and not with the ground and everything else. And if result, meaning if we hit the corn with our raycast, we first want to double check if the result collider, which will be the corn object, has method interact. And if it has an interact method, we will simply result collider interact, call that method. And right above this, we will also emit the signal of harvested crop. And with this signal, we want to also send the result collider get crop type, which was the function we made. And then also result collider get harvest amount. So that's the two functions we made right here, get crop type and get harvest amount. That's the ones we call right here in the harvested crop signal. So now something will happen if we interact, but we want something to happen if we just look at it as well. So right here in the process, we will add another result raycast, same layer, and we can actually just copy this. If the result has the method of interact, we will instead emit a signal of update prompt text. And then we will also get the result collider update prompt text right there. But if the collider doesn't have the method of interact, we want to emit the same signal still, but instead of getting the prompt text from the collider, we want to just make it nothing at all, like so. Also, if we don't get a result from the raycast, we want to do the same thing and just emit a signal of nothing at all to update the prompt text. Now, before this will work properly, we have to go back into our player script and first of all add a reference to our interactor. Like so, and then type interactor connect, and I will connect the harvested crop to the inventory, add crop, and I will copy this line and connect the update prompt text to the UI's update prompt text. And now when we play the game, we will be able to go up to this one and see that it's not ready. If we look away, we see nothing at all, and if we look back at it, click to harvest. And I click it, and now I have one corn down there. But the final thing I want to add is to be able to plant the corns as well. So let's first of all go into the project settings again, into the input map, and type plant, and add a mouse button, the right button. And I'll just copy this right here and say that if input is action just pressed plant, I will call the plant method. And the plant method I will create right now. Func plant, and we will again raycast, but this time we don't want to raycast to the layer that the corn is on, because we want to be able to plant on the ground, so we will raycast to the first layer. And if result, meaning if we hit the ground, we want to plant crop. But first we need to know what crop we're going to plant. So there's several ways to get a reference to our corn, but the way I like to do it is to type export packed scene var and then name it crop to plant. Doing this, if I just write pass down here instead for now, will allow us to click the interactor, see the crop to plant right here, and be able to take the corn from our scenes and drag it into that slot. Now in the plant function, we will make a crop instance, which will be the crop to plant instanced, and then add it to the world by typing get tree, get root, add child, and then paste in the crop instance. But we don't just want to add it to the world, we want to add it right where we're looking. So the crop instance global transform origin will be set to the result position. And really we don't have to do anything other than this, but I like to have some randomness when I spawn things. So I will type crop instance, rotate Y, and then type in random range 0.0 and tau. The reason I type tau is because tau is pi times 2. Basically, that's the same thing. And this rotate Y function does not work with angles, it only works with radians. So writing 0 and tau here is basically like randomizing between 0 and 360. And then a final little randomness thing, I will change the crop instance global scale and simply type vector 3 1 times random range 0.9 to 1.1. So there's a tiny size difference between them. This was the final line of code, so now I will just fix this typo first of all, transform, and then I will press the default environment down here, make the sky color a little more pleasing, and then start the game. Now we have our crop right here that we cannot interact with yet, and now we can harvest it. And now I have 1 corn down there. And if I right click, I can plant these right here, and you see that little glitch? I will actually go out of the game and fix that right now. If we go to the corn and take a look at how it looks, it starts off being the big one. So if we just turn that off and turn maybe the small one on, that will fix everything. So now I can plant these and it looks great. And they will grow in 5 seconds. And after they've grown, I can click to harvest and it'll show how many I've harvested down there in the label. So thanks for watching, and this entire project is available in the first link in the description. All of these corn models are free to use, also available in the same link. If you have any questions or need some help, you can join my Discord, link in description. And tell me if you want to see more tutorials for this 3D farming type of game in Godot.